Licensing officers conduct a search and seize belongings of Secretary James. A search warrant was issued for Assemblyman Trevor James on Thursday evening by licensing officers. The warrant alleged that James had illegally obtained an inspection sticker for his private vehicle. As a result, officers visited his home in Signal Hill and seized his phone. More on this story from Candice Jackson.
Assemblyman Trevor James, Secretary of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development, is the latest TCT official to face a warrant. This time, licensing officers allege that James illegally obtained an inspection sticker for his personal vehicle.
The warrant is at best vague, and it seems to suggest that this search and this seizure of my devices is consequent to a belief that I somehow acquired a certification sticker on the vehicle.
The search warrant signed by Master Sukraj Goswami stated that James's phone may contain evidence to support the allegations of his illegal actions in obtaining the inspection sticker.
Nothing could be further from the truth.
James described the warrant as nothing short of a political attack on the THA administration.
It was an attempt by officers from Trinidad, possibly instructed by politicians in Trinidad, to undertake this action, to say to Tobago, the people that you have elected are of no consequence to us, and we can do to them as we please, expecting maybe that I would resist.
James did not resist and allowed officers to inspect his vehicle and seize his iPhone 15.
There is no doubt in my mind whatsoever as to the reaches of the PNM. The reaches to the PNM into every statutory body in Trinidad and Tobago. There is no doubt in my mind that the PNM can have access to and could impact the decision-making process of any and every statutory authority in Trinidad and Tobago.
James stated that the actions were an attempt to embarrass him and his family, and he is preparing to take legal action against the licensing office. Meanwhile, he expressed his intention to contest the upcoming general elections, should they be called, in an effort to address and change the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago to prevent such actions in the future.
This is the tipping point. This is the tipping point. The decision, of course, is not mine, but I'm offering myself publicly to the party and to the people of Tobago.
James said it does not matter whether he contests the Tobago East or West seat, leaving the decision to the Tobago People's Party, the TPP, on whether they are willing to have him as a candidate.
I will just ask this question. This is coming from Elizabeth Williams from Tobago. She said the Tobago People's Party has labeled the search of Mr. James's home as a PNM search. Could you comment on it?
Just say, we have come together this morning to report to the national community about what they must expect in response to the upsurge in crime, as we said. And I think we expect that you would focus on that so that the public would benefit from what this forum is really intended for.
One last thing. In 2012, when the Prime Minister would have occupied the opposition benches at that time, he made a statement then that if the government can't deal with crime, then the government itself is part of the problem. It's 12 years later, and we're seeing, of course, the problem is worse, and we're seeing higher, murder stats. And Dr. Rowley, by that standard now, can you say, sitting there, are you willing, as Minister of National Security, can you accept that pronouncement now? Because we're seeing that you're coming here today to report to the nation what can be done and what is being done. But of course, we're seeing the figures going up. We're seeing that fear, the trauma, the fear is there. So can you now, judging by what he would have said then, going with that? As Akash Samaru alluded to in one of his interventions earlier, that which you have described is not new. Those of us who have been around long enough, we would have seen this kind of upsurge from time to time. So all we are doing here today
is presenting to you, the national community, what the response from law enforcement will be in relation to the upsurge that is traumatizing the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago today. Suppressing it, eradicating it where it is possible, using the laws and the Constitution and the tremendous experience and hard work of the police service supported by the Defence Force. And as Minister Scotland urged, the personal responsibility that we expect from every single right-thinking citizen who complain about this, who are affected by it, that we all in the whole of government, whole of society context, where we, the government, in last year, I think it was, or year before, last year, identified this crime problem as a public health concern and treating it as such. So the comments by my colleague about the whole of government approach and the responsibility of every single one of us to be sober, to be reflective, and to do whatever we can, wherever we are, to pushing back the situation for all of our collective benefit. That is the focus.
Crime in Trinidad and Tobago is not just murder. Very same thing that a thieving minister is doing, that is trying to get money that he should not be having.
And Tobago, the time has come for us to declare violence as a public health emergency. For us to declare violence as a public health emergency.
The homicide rate in TNT in 2019 was 29.3 per 100,000. 29.3 dead, murder, per 100,000. And that is higher than the global average. The global average is 6.1 per 100,000. Look how way up. Only this last week, Trinidad and Tobago has now been relegated in the top 7 most violent criminal country in the world. We are put at number 6 under this Rowley government. And this man comes today and has nothing to tell us. Then, remember Rowley saying this. He says, if the government cannot deal with crime, then the government is part of the crime. What do you say now, Mr. Rowley? The parents. You don't want to blame parents. Violent crime under this Rowley government. Every time, if you look at the stats, I think some of MPs shared it, every time the PNM is in power, what happens? Every time the PNM is in power, crime rises. Every single time. And as Anita told us, they have been in government for the longest time in our country. And so today, across our country, we are living in fear. Our nation is under siege. On the last PNM government, Mulila told you, all the serious crimes in the country, you remember, bad as that was, then it became a new kind of wave of kidnappings, new crimes. Mulila just told us that. Now all the regular serious crimes, and on top of that, what? Home invasions. What a horrifying place we are now. Rampant home invasion. This morning, Mr. Rowley was busy fighting crime. The only way he knows how to fight crime. Talk, and more talk. And tomorrow will be talk, and more talk. And going on 8 years, all they've been doing is talk. But I want to tell you, we will not only just talk the talk, the UNC will walk the walk to deal with crime in Trinidad and Tobago. They have closed down all the training opportunities. When you listen to Anita, all the schools closed down, all the job opportunities. When you do that, what's going to happen? You think again, you need Panadol? Yes, you don't have a job. But what is really, really wrong, it is what we call a socio-economic problem. But I don't think they understand those kinds of words. That is why our society is in decay. That is why our economy has collapsed. And their way to fight it is to bring all these people here after 8 years and not give us one idea. I listened then and I listened after because they were carried live. At the end of the day, not one plan Not one policy, no plan, total incompetence. And so that fancy symposium, propaganda, to take us away, as Rudy said, from remembering. I just said, don't forget, we must always remember their incompetence, their inability to govern. So while they talk and talk and talk, people are under siege. The next thing he did was to blame USA manufacturers. What's saying is them making gun. Let me ask you something. Are these manufacturers making motor cars too? Don't motor cars kill people? What you'll do? Ban these manufacturers? What cutlass and knife? Huh? What about Gramaxone? You see how ridiculous it is that you're blaming the US when you cannot lock down your own borders. You cannot prevent these things from coming. That's your job. What you want the US to do.
I want to call on the bishop to call on his colleagues to assume a greater responsibility in calling on the national community, especially parents, to take responsibility for their progeny.
Unless we enlist the help of God, we will be working in vain. Unless we enlist the help of God, we will be working in vain.
Call on the Prime Minister to do something about crime. I'm not in your bedroom, I'm not in your choice of men. You're losing the war against the criminal element, but you hold the government accountable, and the government must be held accountable. The country is awash in blood. There isn't a news item in this country where there isn't a good chance that a major part of the news is who killed who. We're taking the advice from you, the people. And when you have had enough of what we have done, you know exactly what to do. You know what to do.
Your vote will decide our destiny. Your vote will decide what you want to be. Your vote can foretell our country's fate. Move and use it well before it's too late.
The people of this country are quite correctly holding this government accountable to secure the country and to make you feel safe. You're losing the war against the criminal element, but you hold the government accountable, and the government must be held accountable. The country is awash in blood. There isn't a news item in this country where there isn't a good chance that a major part of the news is who killed who. We're taking the advice from you, the people. And when you have had enough of what we have done, you know exactly what to do. You know what to do.
Vote them out, they go Martin West. Vote them out, they go Martin East. Vote them out, San Fernando West. St. Anne's West, Forest Bay North. Vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out.
PNM is the stalwarts of mafia, bubble and corruption. Home of them big liars, big thieves of millions of dollars. Don't trust none of them. Them is the real problem. They're doing me what they want, so let me vote up them. We not voting them for King's PNM. We not voting them for King's PNM. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Forrest, King Stuart, living high, dictatorship style.
Rowley saying this. He says if the government cannot deal with crime, then the government is part of the crime. What do you say now, Mr. Rowley? The parents. You don't want to blame parents.
When PM Rowley was in opposition, he said, anytime a government resorts to blaming the opposition for its failure to deliver on their mandate and their responsibilities to the people, it is a clear sign that they have accepted that they have outlived their usefulness. Why hypocritical PM Rowley is not out of office by taking his own advice? Obviously, he even lied to himself. When PM Rowley was in opposition, he said, anytime a government resorts to blaming the opposition for its failure to deliver on their mandate and their responsibilities to the people, it is a clear sign that they have accepted that they have outlived their usefulness. Why hypocritical PM Rowley is not out of office by taking his own advice? Obviously, he even lied to himself.
Rowley saying this. He says if the government cannot deal with crime, then the government is part of the crime. What do you say now, Mr. Rowley? What do you say now, Mr. Rowley? What do you say now, Mr. Rowley?